If you have progressed even one or two ranks within sport mode or moved up the global leaderboard significantly more than you normally have, you know the feeling when you are getting faster and you don't quite believe it. You're not really ready to accept it and it hasn't really sunk in. You question it. You almost think, are these guys just a bit off pace? Are they going a bit slower than normal? How come I'm staying with them? Surely it's something they're doing, not something you're doing. And I have featured these landmark moments in my progression before, specifically when I first started YouTube. A lot of you guys watched it. I think it's at 8,000 views at the moment, from Watkins Glen about 3 or 4 months ago, where that was a big landmark moment for me, a big milestone moment for me as a coach in the public eye. I feel like I deal with a lot of pressure and I need to perform at a very high level. I don't need to be the fastest guy in the game, not at all. But what I said in that video was I feel the weight of pressure to perform at a high level because of the public role that I have, and justifiably so. But what I did say about that video was that that performance came at a very strong combination. Watkins Glen Group 3 or Group 4 is a combination I am very strong at. It is definitely one of my top 3 tracks. So I rounded that video off by saying that I didn't expect to have quite that kind of pace every single week. There were definitely going to be weeks where I don't have that kind of pace. Laguna Seca, hello. Fuji is not one of those strong combinations, or at least it never used to be. There was a time when I would have placed Fuji in my bottom 5 tracks. As we see Kia here having a moment, got the weight shift slightly wrong. He came out of the corner wide, got onto the curb. You can't transition the weight correctly when you go that wide. And this gave myself and Popcorn, that's M. Roslin at the front, leading, that's OP Popcorn. This gave me and him a break. We've got a little bit of a gap to P3, which is what I'll talk about in a minute. But Fuji was never a strong combination. It's a track I wouldn't even say I enjoyed for quite a long time, and you probably feel the same. The last sector at Fuji, and particularly the last corner at Fuji, is probably one of the most hated and disliked sectors in the game. A lot of people, even some fast drivers, don't like driving at Fuji because of just how technical it is as a track. So I wouldn't say it's the last place I expected to have this kind of pace, but definitely wasn't one of the first tracks that would come to my mind as somewhere that I might discover that kind of Watkins Glen pace next, if you get where I'm coming from. So jumping forwards a lap there, the driver in P3, I believe, watching Keystream at the time, I believe that was VQS Flores, who is a World Tour driver, driving under Vanquish Esports generic general account there, I guess. But again, a phenomenally fast driver. Now, I don't know between them who might be faster, Popcorn or Flores. I just know they're both drivers I don't really expect to be able to live with at this combination, custom slip or otherwise. And interestingly, I really didn't feel like other tracks like it was the custom slip enabling me to stay with Popcorn here. I could see it in the corners. I could feel it in the corners, even to the point that I started to do that thing where you start to second guess yourself and you start to say, is Popcorn just off pace? Is Flores off pace? Why is Flores not catching? And then you ultimately are forced to conclude that actually no, the lap times are solid. They're not the fastest lap times, but they are competitive. at the end of the day. There are still competitive lap times for this lobby. It's been a bit of a mixed bag for me this week, results-wise. That is just Fuji compared to, say, Watkins Glen. I'm just not as consistent here when it comes to mistakes. So it's either been a top 5 or been in it, basically, as far as I can remember. Again, that's just Fuji, the way you have to drive it. It's not as natural to me as a track like Watkins Glen. But the pace was always there if I could iron out the mistakes, if I could learn from the mistakes and put in a good performance. And that is what very much came together in this race. Now, take a look at the driver behind, okay? If Floris and Popcorn weren't enough, the driver behind is Killian. The Killian. You can't talk about who might be the top 5 drivers in the game right now without mentioning his name. And as we jump forwards 1 lap, Killian's within 3/10. He is on older tyres. I do need to say that. He pitted 1 lap earlier than us, and with times 5 tyre wear, that essentially means his tyres are 5 laps older. But that does account for some of the pace equalizing, basically. Like, I'm not saying I'm as fast as Killian, please don't get me wrong, but the fact that he's not all over me, like, he's trying to win this race, right? He's come from the back, and Killian is trying to win this race, so I have to assume he's not going to pass up the first opportunity to go past me. I would assume he will wait for the right moment, but that he will do it the first opportunity he gets. And if he knows anything about me, don't imagine he does, but if he knows anything about me, he knows I'm not going to defend it. He knows I would let it go and quite happily take 3rd place in this lobby. But as we exit the last turn to come around and start lap 13, it's actually me that gets the slightly better exit out of the final turn. It's actually me that gets the fastest lap of the race. And this is where I had this whole, hang on, what's going on here moment. So I decided, you know what? The best form of defense is attack. If I'm in the lead, the worst place I can finish is 3rd. If I'm in 3rd, the worst place I can finish is 3rd. So just like the Watkins Glen video, I will go for a move on these guys when I believe I am ready to do so. Not beforehand. I'm much more passive, patient driver, as regular viewers will know. But when you see me go for a move on established aliens, it's because I believe I'm ready to do so. And I spent the rest of this lap, yes, I was in the flow state. Yes, I was in this zone that I've talked about before, and I'm going to be talking about the psychology of sim racing and accessing the flow state in a future video. But when you're in that flow state, when you're in that zone, you can do really weird things like not really pay much attention to what you're doing. And I was looking in the rearview mirror, having just taken the lead, thinking, they're not exactly all over me. Again, that AMG does not have the tyre wear of the Ferrari at this track. The AMG is a front limited car. This is a front limited circuit. The Ferrari is a rear limited car on a front limited circuit, so it's going to have better tyre wear. Popcorn choosing to bump draft me there because Killian actually had a penalty. Killian had a penalty, not me. Should be me getting the penalty. Very, very weird, surreal moment this race. So yes, I had better tyre wear than both the drivers behind. Better than Popcorn because he was in a front limited car on a front limited track, and better than Killian because I pitted 1 lap later than him. And it's also worth saying that tyre wear is one of my natural fortes. I didn't know that. It was not something I planned. It just sort of tends to be part of my driving style. Now, part of that is because a faster driver is pulling more energy through the tyres, so therefore he's going to wear them out more. But then it also occurred to me, if you're able to stay with them only because you've gotten less tyre wear, that still says something about your ability to manage the pace and the tyre wear. And I was just thinking, what is happening here? How come these guys haven't gotten past me? How come Killian has just had a penalty and hasn't closed up to us yet? So I was in this weird out-of-body experience where I didn't really believe what was happening. This is Watkins Glen kind of performance at Fuji. I don't really know what's going on, but whatever. I'm going to try and defend this anyway. And this is where I realised why Popcorn might be in the AMG, because you basically can't defend it. I moved over and he was passed by the braking zone. I'm not going to risk anything into that turn. That would just be stupid. But the Ferrari does have better traction, and that helped me get a really good exit. And I did get my nose alongside Popcorn here, and he very forcefully closed the door. I think I was owed a little bit more room. I'd actually been side by side through that corner with Digit just to prove that it's possible. But it's fine. No big deal. Not gonna cry over it. I'm just glad that neither one of us died and ruined what was otherwise an amazing race. So the focus shifted at that point to defending. That's the opportunity for the win gone. I'm realistic. I'm not going to do anything stupid. So now it's about defending from Killian. I can't even quite believe I'm actually saying that. I moved over to take a narrow line into the chicane, and that gave me a bad exit through the chicane. It allowed Killian to get alongside. I gave him room, but as you can see there, he misjudged it, understeered and tapped my back end. And very respectfully, very much appreciated, Killian allowed me to keep the position. He didn't push his way past, and I'm just all a little bit bowled over at what's happening here. Not only are you racing with World Tour drivers and World Champions, but they're actually showing me respect on track. Killian gave his car a little bit of a wiggle there, and I'm pretty sure that was saying thank you for the race. But I was in such disbelief I didn't know what to do and didn't reciprocate that. And he left the lobby before I could say thank you for the race. It was great to race you, etc. Yeah, wow, really surreal, weird moment. What can I say? Thanks for watching, guys. Keep working hard. Get out of here and go race.